Welcome to the Multi-Family Zone, where business meets family. We explore what the entrepreneur life looks like from the family perspective. Now here are your hosts, Julia and Gino Barbaro.
Hey everyone, this is Julia Barbaro, host of the Multi-Family Zone podcast. I'm here with the co-founder of Jake and Gino and author, my husband and co-host, Gino Barbaro.
Hey, Jewel. How you doing?
Hey, I'm good.
We've got a great guest today. I mean, she gave me a bio that was 3 pages long, and it should have been 5 because she's just got so much experience. But let me just introduce her. Her name is Margolis. She's a licensed certified nurse midwife, licensed femme teacher, certified clarity breathwork practitioner, yoga teacher, and practitioner. She's a third-generation guide to mamas birthing babies in her family and has helped thousands of families, including us, in her 20-plus year midwifery practice, and has personally ushered the births of over 1,000 healthy babies into the world. She's also guided countless human beings to heal from emotional pain, inner stress, and trauma, tap into their personal strength and power, live fully and vibrantly, and reclaim their radiance, joyfulness, calm, and overall sense of well-being. When she's not helping mamas around the world, you can find her doing yoga anywhere and everywhere, dancing, taking or facilitating powerful growth and healing workshops, traveling, enjoying family time, and watching comedy and historical drama, and she's an awesome woman to boot. So without further ado, Miss Margolis, welcome to the show.
Oh, happy to be here.
And you know, I have to say, my husband and I talk a lot, especially on the podcast, and when we talk out about working together, about, just living life together, on planning life, raising kids, supporting each other. And one of the most crucial, most beautiful, meaningful parts of that is babies, delivering babies, and the whole pregnancy, the whole journey. Because that time is, it's you get married, you know each other, but once you're pregnant, things change. You have emotions going on, you're sick. So you see a different side of each other, and that support still has to be there, but it does change a little bit. And you have seen so much, and I just want you to share with us a little what you learned in life, because you do also have 4 children, that you have a successful business that you've worked, through having 4 children. I can't believe all the things that you've accomplished. And now you even have grandchildren that you also help deliver. So you've seen it all and you lived it all. And I just want you to share that with us.
In what respect?
I want you to just how to, you've seen a couple come in and just, the woman is sick. The husband doesn't know what to do, and it's a change in life for everybody. And so you have to guide them maybe, through their whole pregnancy, through their whole birth. Birthing is new for people. Obviously they don't, you could take all the courses you want, but it's new for people. So what have you noticed? What has helped people?
It's very
out
new
there?
for people.
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting because as I was telling you before we were recording, that I work in 2 settings. I work in a hospital setting, and I also work in a home birth setting. So the very different populations. And it's interesting that they birth very differently. So the people that come to me are Googling everything, and a lot of them are stressed out and completely not most people in the modern day world are just not connected to nature, they're just connected to technology, and unless they're gardening or farming, they're just not connected to really their bodies, and they're living very much in their heads, right? And we don't like difficulty. If anything is feeling uncomfortable, we medicate, or we escape and we numb, or we get addicted to work and being online, social media, right?
Right, yeah.
And we need childbirth classes. Like, women for thousands of years have been giving birth. Birth was part of life. Birth was part of, pregnancy and birth was just part of life, and normal family life. Yeah. So when a woman would be pregnant and a woman would go into labor, like all the women in the community that were close to her mother-in-law, or, sister, and could be aunts and grandmothers, would all be there helping. So it was familiar, right? It wasn't something to be afraid of. And today, birth was, when birth was moved into the hospital, we don't see it, right? We just see it maybe on some like 911 on television,
Yes,
like the music and call 911. The woman gets her first labor sensation, and everyone's scared of pain. But it's really the women that come up in the hospital practice are coming from indigenous cultures. They're coming from very poor cultures where they were surrounded by home birth, where things are difficult, where they're not afraid of difficulty. And they don't take childbirth classes. They don't make it complicated. They just come in and they birth. Yeah. Like they're not Googling. Most of them don't speak English. So it's so interesting to see. I had less to do with it, meaning I had less to do preparing them. They had a village, a tribe, a community of people around them who would, they respected the wisdom of the elders or their older sisters or mothers who would prepare them, right? Women in the Western world are, not in community. Families are not in community, and they're totally unprepared, right? So I have to start helping them, and this is what I do in my book, is helping them to get out of their own way. I don't have to teach you how to breathe, right? Unless someone, has an illness, asthma or some lung condition or a heart condition, I don't have to teach you how to beat your heart. So it's the same way. I don't have to teach you how to give birth. A woman's body knows how to get pregnant and grow and birth and breastfeed her baby. But today it's just like we don't trust ourselves. We don't know we're not connected to that, right? And there's a lot of fear. So a lot of what I have to do is help women not just get out of their way, but remember what they forgot. What their body already knows. And not only that, like I'm very into, rather than help women and just bear it, because it's intense, but can we love the intensity? Can we embrace, befriend the intensity, not run from it? Can we have an adventure? Can we love our birth, even if it's as challenging as heck? If it's the most intense, healthy sensation we've ever had. Athletes do it all the time, right? If you're going to run the 26-mile marathon, it's going to get hard, right? You don't just wing it. You have to prepare. If you're going to be Michael Jordan, or you're going to be any Olympic star or prime dancer in a big, ballet dancer in a big performance, you're used to things being hard, to going to challenge, going past your limits, to do things to what's the word? Transform the pain, because things are hurting, but you have your eye on the goal. And people can be in ecstasy with their experience. So I have a lot more work to do than I do with the people that are coming from poor countries that already have, and don't speak English. I'm just telling you.
Yeah, that's incredible.
So
it makes me want to think, like, why are you coming to America? You had healthier food back there. Why? Really? Now you can't afford to eat fruits and vegetables and go fishing. You have to go to Walmart to eat. And, and so then they're getting all the Western illnesses. And when I tell them they need herbs or, for different ailments, if Medicaid doesn't pay for it, they won't take it. Yeah. Where in their countries, they could just take an herb from the tree and take it and rub aloe on the, Yeah. So it's and there you had your family, your unit, your wisdom, your culture. Right, but some of them were really running away from drug, terrible crime and corrupt governments and poverty and such things like that. But
and what made you want to become a midwife? Like, give us your story, your background of what made you get it, because it's not an easy job. It's a really challenging job, challenging occupation,
but beautiful at the same time.
Yeah,
it
is.
Well, yeah, but he's right. It's beautiful and it's challenging. But you know what? I wouldn't want to do anything else. I can't think of one other thing. I mean, occasionally when there's an emergency, I think maybe I could just sell guava juice and passion fruit smoothies on the beach. I would do that, but I just can't imagine doing anything else. So my grandfather was an obstetrician, and my father. There's a lot of doctors and nurses in my family. My mother was a nurse at Villanova University. I don't know if you knew where that was, and that's in. I grew up in Philadelphia, and they were all like, "You should be a nurse," and I'm like, "No." My mother said black, I said white. That's just my nature, But 1 year of journalism was enough to like, that's not me. And I started volunteering I wanted to serve. And I started volunteering in a hospital, and I found that I wanted to be, this is what I wanted to do, right? But when I, be a nurse, and so when I took my labor and delivery rotation, I was like, oh, this I have to do, right? Because, but it really wasn't until my own, so I worked as a labor and delivery nurse for a couple years before I didn't even hear of a midwife. And it was when I was pregnant with my first that I went to the doctor who I worked with. And it was the most scary experience. I mean, being a nurse in today's hospital, even back 30 years ago, it's really not all that different today. It's actually probably worse. But when he kind of just had 5 minutes for my appointments and dismissed all my concerns, and I took Lamaze. But when I entered the hospital and was told to take off your clothes, take off your clothes and put on a gown, it's like disempowering, and everybody expects that's what we do, but it's really not normal. And being told to, you have to lie flat on your back and attached to the monitor and the IV, and I had seen all this as working as a nurse, and I knew my hands were tied. Seeing way too many C-sections than normal birth, which what I learned in school. I was seeing more emergencies and crises from the interventions that I had to deal with as a nurse. I had to fix and rescue what was caused in the first place. So, but now I'm the mom in labor, right? And of course, no animal could labor this way, attached to a monitor and being not told to eat and drink, told that they can't eat and drink, and have, IV, and the doctor, on a time limit, and the doctor kept coming in every hour and going out, not even telling me, going out and telling my colleague nurse, she's still 4, give her PIT. And I knew what that was. So she comes in and she's just putting it in my IV. I'm like, whoa, what are you doing? I know what that is. I don't want that. And she says, but honey, you don't want a cesarean. Like she meant well. But that's, I'm vulnerable. I'm in that situation. No, I didn't want a cesarean. I'm a dancer. I'm an athlete. I was afraid of the cesareans that I saw. I didn't see such great outcomes. But, so, and then, one thing led to the next. And then, of course, my Lamaze went out the window, and I was rushed. I heard him say, give her an epidural. So now they're giving me that spinal injection in my, in the back of in the fluid around my spinal cord, and this is what happened. I mean, her heart rate dropped dangerously so during that, and then in the next 10 minutes, my worst fear happened. There was this panic eyes that I was rushed to the operating room. They had minutes to get her out because her heart rate had dropped so much. And I waited there by myself alone in the operating room for 10 minutes, 20 minutes, a half an hour. Then it was an hour. And there was no assistant surgeon to do the cesarean. So I went from thinking my baby's going to be in trouble to, damaged to, dead. Really, that in my brain. And somehow the epidural worked, and I got to fully dilated in the operating room, and I started pushing and screaming for help. The doctor comes running in, and he's like panicked and cuts a large episiotomy and vacuums her out. And I did not want to look at her. She was dead to me. I had no, and she's like, she's fine. Congratulations. Yeah. And I was not fine. Wow. I was trauma. Now I know my study of trauma, but that I had such birth trauma from that. And, that began my journey of there has to be another way, right? There has to be another way, and in those days we didn't have internet, so I was talking to my friend. First of all, the monitoring that they all say is you need, was wrong. She was fine, wow. Right? But I didn't know that, so I speaking my frustrations to a friend about all this going on in the hospital that I'm seeing, and now I just viscerally felt in my body I need to do something else to, and she was like, you should be a midwife, and I said, what's that? And she's like, so I went to the library, and I was like, wow, and then I came home. I was reading everything about midwifery, and I applied and went to midwifery school, and I came home. It was a whole different model of care you know, that birth is normal, that the best intervention is no intervention and just let it happen, and that women's bodies know what to do, and you know, don't meddle with something that's not broken. And yes, we have to learn how to handle things that come up, right? We need to be able to manage emergencies, but most of the time healthy women and babies do just fine. But for me to really be a midwife, I had to experience it myself. So my other babies were born with midwives, but I remember telling my midwife, for me to authentically promote this, it has to work for me.
Yeah.
And she was like, "Oh, you're going to be fine." I'm like, "Well, I was really traumatized with my first one. Like, you know, she's going to be so different, so healing." And she was right. She was right. You know, when I'm in labor, it was like she was very calm. I wore my own clothes. I was in the shower. I was on the floor. I mean, it was, you know, just real midwifery care. And it was beautiful. And all my babies, the other babies, were born that way. And that it worked for me, it could work for anyone. Because I was the biggest wuss.
What did your parents say about it when you told them, "I want to be a midwife"? What did they say?
Very supportive.
Oh, really? Good. That's great.
Yeah, because I went to a prestigious, you know, like they're very into the names of the colleges. They're very into Ivy League schools, you know. So if you go to a reputable school, and my school was, you know, University of Pennsylvania and then Case Western, and, you know, they were very proud and supportive. Yeah.
But it's interesting because our worst experience in life, it does bring us to how we want to help other people.
Yeah. Well, the healer has to have hit rock bottom. The healer has to have been wounded, because only if you know the pain that you're inspired to really, and then you could really understand someone else's.
But you took that difficult time in your life and you did something with it. And that's always a message that we try to share with people we all have these experiences in life. Do you want to do something with them, something positive, and help those other people? Or do you want to just stay in that difficult time, you know? And that's amazing that you did that. I actually have never heard that before. So.
You never heard that before?
No, I may have like 20 years ago, but I didn't remember it.
Well, you know, I don't know if you knew, I kind of had the same approach when my daughter was ill, right? Mm-hmm. So rather than, you know, I had a daughter, just for the audience, that actually had a terminal illness from actually a medical intervention that was done to her at camp, and an antibiotic that she was given. And I hit rock bottom then again, you know, that was eight years of hell, I would call it. But I did not want to be curled up in a fetal position. What am I going to do? My life is over. You know, like, how can I grow from this? How can I learn from this? You know, and how can I be there for my family and the people in my practice? And so I got very into the whole growth and personal growth back then, you know.
I want to share a little story with the listeners of why men are not made to give birth. I don't remember what child it was. It was either the third or fourth child. And one of the things with this for men is it's really difficult to sit there and have your partner, your significant other, screaming and saying, "I can't do it, I can't do it." And you're sitting there like we would say in Italian, a chooch or a donkey. You can't do anything. You feel pretty useless, right? But it's exhausting. And the 9 months of pregnancy, it feels like you're pregnant, but you're not. You don't have any of these symptoms, and it's hard to explain. And then when you're finally there in your bedroom and your wife is pushing and everything's going on, and you're just so useless, and there's nothing you can do. And finally, she gives birth, and about 10 minutes later, I sit on the bed and I say to myself, "Boy, I'm really tired."
You said it out loud.
And I said it out loud. And I fell asleep, and I'm like, this is why men weren't supposed to give birth to babies. And I know if I was, we'd have one child, and I'm blessed to have 6, because I don't know how she put up with going with the next one, that fear. But for men out there, it's just as traumatizing for us, because we're supposed to be the protectors. We're supposed to have all the answers, right? And then when you have, you know, your wife sitting there and screaming and you're not knowing what to do, and it doesn't matter how many times you've had babies, whether it's your first or your 6th, you're never ready. So anybody out there who wants to have a child, you're never going to be prepared for it. It's always a unique experience.
I try my best to prepare partners for it. I try my best.
Tell me what do you do? Tell me.
Well, first of all, just like it's just you see a butterfly, you see a caterpillar trying to hatch, and it looks like they're struggling, right? Mm-hmm. And you want to do something. Anytime we've ever done anything, the caterpillar dies. So we have to keep, that's one way of looking at it. We have to let them have their process. You have 6 children, they've had temper tantrums. You know as well as I do, if you try to stop that temper tantrum, they need to embody their grief, their anger, their rage, and it just they need to move it through their body, and then they reset. So we have to let people have their own journey, let people have their own process. But if you also, I tell them, like, if you ever watched an athlete train, they're working hard. Like this is kind of like, I said, running the marathon or climbing Mount Everest or any kind of athletic, Olympic training requires a lot of work, and they're going to be making noise. And I explain to people that it's actually part of the normal late stage of labor that a woman will say, I want a C-section. I can't do this. I'm dying.
Those are the worst words ever.
I know, but if
I hate that.
If you knew that she's going to say that, if you knew she was going to say that, and your midwife is like very relaxed, good, this means the baby's coming soon. She is doing it, right? But I know when you're in it, I know it's hard to be a guy and watch that, but I try my hardest in different ways to work with that guy, to work with that partner, to prepare him for that, because if he's not prepared, it's even worse.
Yeah.
So, if he doesn't know to expect that. I don't know if you remember, I used to have everybody watch that video made in Austria called Inner Strength, where the women are really making the noises. Can we relax with the noises? I went to a midwifery convention. 500 midwives were in the room, and it was taught, it was a conference, right? And there was an obstetrician speaking. And he was French, and he says, I can't do the accent. What is the best intervention that a birth attendant can do at a birth? He said, an obstetrician. And everyone's raising their hand, and we were all wrong. Everyone was wrong. He said to knit, K-N-I-T. Wow, that's amazing that he said that. Because what is knitting? Birth attendants and dads, especially, they need to be doing something. We need to be fixing something. And knitting just kind of keeps our hands occupied doing something.
Funny.
That plus it's exuding calm, right? I don't knit. I can't knit. I can sew perineums, but I can't knit. But I'm not. But I don't want to meddle in something. First, do no harm is the Hippocrates oath that doctors have to take upon graduation from medical school. But this is what I tell guys. I said, if it's not broken, the best thing you can do for her is be there and love her, and nothing.
But that's all
reminder of her of what she wanted. Now, if we're having a hard, difficult, complicated, prolonged posterior labor, and she's not progressing, and she is saying in between contractions, listen, I can't do this. I want an epidural. That's a different thing than in the late labor when she's saying, I can't, I'm dying. And then after the contraction, she'd say, oh, I'm fine. Like, I had a mom in labor. That was her mantra in late labor. I'm dying, I'm dying, I'm dying. And then after the contraction goes, she would say to her son who was in the room, oh, honey, I'm not dying. I just say that when I get contractions. I'm dying, I'm dying. Right. And he was just chill with it because she prepared him.
Right.
And she was a childbirth educator and a doula, and he came to every visit, and she prepared him, and he was just like chill, like I was chill. Yeah. If I was not knitting and nervous and, and offering her an epidural every 5 minutes, then that's a different.
Let me ask you a question. For women out there looking to have a home birth, I know for my wife, I can give you the specific persona. My wife was empowering. She was strong. She knew her body. She knew what she wanted. She was prepared, and she went against the grain because I'm the weirdo. 30 years ago, I was like, everyone, home birth? Nobody's home birthing. Homeschool? Nobody's homeschooling. But as part of the partner, I trusted her, and I said, okay, we'll try it your way. If it doesn't work out, we'll go back to the thing. So, what would you say a typical woman who wants to have a home birth? What should they be? How should they expect? I guess, what's the persona? What is a typical woman?
Not what you expect. We mean, what's the persona of the people that come and want to have a home birth?
Yeah, and exactly. What should they be prepared
for? You would expect them to be hippies, but they're not. Mm-hmm. I have doctors, I have lawyers, I have all I have mostly the patient, the client population that comes, they're making like educated decisions. They're professionals, acupuncturists, chiropractors, teachers of all walks of life, business people. So the persona is not what you think. It's not the hippies anymore. I don't even see hippies.
Yeah. I think that's changed, maybe. I don't know.
It's really changed.
Yeah,
it's not when Ina May Gaskin, and all that whole movement. And she's this amazing midwife, but I mean, her community was a commune.
Yeah, yeah, that's incredible.
So I guess my question should have been more like, also, who is it for? Like who's really is like for us, our family, it was great because my wife, she's very healthy. She took her nutrition. She was serious. She didn't want to have any drugs. She wanted to have it at home in a nice, controlled, happy environment, safe, so
that's who it's for. It's for people who it's for people who want to take responsibility for their health, because today we cannot afford to say, oh, give our responsibility over to hospitals and the medical system. We saw in New York, we see that in childbirth. I mean, the United States has the worst outcome statistics, despite spending the most money on maternity care, and we have the worst outcome statistics. We're losing more moms and babies, and having more moms and babies being sick and damaged from modern health care. So something's going wrong there. So these are people that are wanting to take back their health, and they're not just like relinquishing control, right? They want to take responsibility for their lifestyle, their nutrition, their management of stress, what they put in their body, into their eyes and their ears and their mouth, what environment they're in, right? So they're taking responsibility. That's a big one. And they want to take back the power. They want a more humane, meaningful experience. They don't want to just be treated like an assembly line. They don't want to be told what to do. Yes, they're not irresponsible. Like if we need an intervention, if somebody's bleeding too much and needs a medication, I have that, right? I bring the birth center to them. They're not being reckless, like I don't want any intervention. Part of holistic care is, yes, we use all the natural remedies, but sometimes we need modern medicine, and we're grateful for modern medicine when we need it. But so it's people really wanting to have a more human, a more meaningful experience, a more beautiful experience. They want a more family experience. They don't want to be told who can and cannot be there, what they can and cannot wear, what they can and cannot drink, what noises they can't not make, and what positions they should be in. It's restoring humanity to the process, and there's a lot of people that are realizing not just the dangers of modern medicine, but the emptiness in it. They're being robbed of an experience, like when women and dads and go through that experience in this respectful midwifery model of care. They're transformed for life. It becomes the most beautiful, meaningful, intimate experience.
That's so important, because that was, when we think back, yes, childbirth is painful. Some kids are just a little bit bigger than others, and it's just super painful. You remember that.
It's painful, but I've had people tell me they're in ecstasy with their pain.
Absolutely.
We can't get through life without pain. Pain is there, and maybe and it's there for a reason. So when we relax with the pain, that's why we were talking about this before, is I think before, when we just first started talking before the podcast, is why it's important to start early in the care, especially for a first-time family, is they don't know what to expect. Right? So we need a lot of preparation, and part of that is befriending intense sensations without the story, befriending pain, because this is good pain. This is not pain of disease. This is pain that it's working right.
No, I agree. And even the pain, I feel like that kind of prepares you for raising children. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It kind of gives you that superpower, and
you find your superpower on your own when you're allowed to, when you're encouraged to.
Yes, that's so beautiful.
Wow. Let's take a quick time out to hear from our sponsors.
Hey, Wheelbarrow Profits family, are you struggling with ways of teaching your kids about money and financial literacy? Gino, I think we have something to help them. Tell them about it.
We've been hard at work creating the Jake and Gino Youth Academy. The Academy takes a deep dive into good money habits, setting up a budget, investing, taxes, the difference between an asset and a liability, and so much more. This is a great opportunity to spend time with your children, to be their role model when it comes to money and investing, and learn how to set them on the right path to financial success.
If you want more information on how you can become the next Youth Academy member, visit www.jakeandgino.com/education to begin your journey to financial freedom.
As we like to say at Jake and Gino, people with financial intelligence can change the world for the better.
Now, this is my favorite part because I get to ask a couple of business questions because you've really created.
I was wondering if you were going to compare labor with
No.
real estate.
No, I wasn't.
And you were talking about it, and it is you have to go through the pain.
Yeah.
You have to push through.
Right.
You finally get.
Well,
to
the
your goal.
amazing thing that I had an epiphany while you were speaking was that's why I created Jake and Gino. I created Jake and Gino because I wanted to help others go through the pain of what I went through with financial education and financial intelligence to become financially free, because I didn't like my business. I didn't like being at the restaurant. So I learned how to invest in real estate, and I learned how to do that, and I learned how to create a business from that and create multiple streams of revenue like you have. I know you have supplements. I know you've written books. I know you've done educational. I know you're on media. So that's what we've done with Jake and Gino. But when did you say to yourself, wow, I don't have to just stay and just be a midwife and just deliver babies. I can go out and start branching out and writing books and doing other stuff. When did that occur with you?
When my daughter told me I should be on Instagram. About 5.5 years ago, one of my teenagers, she said, you should be on Instagram. And like I said, what's that? What I really, I want to minimize time online. I like to connect with people. That's my I think we need real connection, and I think that's my talent was connecting in person. But I don't know if you remember, Julia, my handouts, right? So
Yes.
people would come, I'm nauseous, I'm depressed, I'm tired, I'm so tired, my back hurts. So I started to research all of the natural modalities that can address all these things, these common discomforts. And I started to, people used to come in with their binders and they would call it their Bible. Well, that's where my book started, because it was all the different, and before I was a home birth midwife, I was a hospital midwife where they gave me 15 minutes for a visit. And on the way out, someone's like, by the way, I'm having some bleeding. Or by the way, I can't sleep at night. What can you recommend?
Yeah.
So that's a whole conversation in and of itself. So I used to carry a big briefcase of handouts that I had written, because we didn't have internet then. We just, I typed them up on my typewriter.
I have them all still.
Right. So then they became refined and refined, and there's a lot of integrative physicians. I don't like woo-woo. It has, I'm very spiritual, but I'm saying it has to have some scientific basis for me to recommend it. And I have to know that it works, or I have to have been, experienced it myself. And so I really do, bring in all the holistic modalities. And so that sort of birthed the book of Natural Birth Secrets. That's 580 pages.
It's amazing.
All the different, questions I get. Should my kids be at birth? How do I prepare them? What if my family's against birth? What do I do about ultrasound? Should I have one? So I really had to delve into the pros and the cons of how I bring people through my practice when they ask me these questions. And so that birthed the book. But the media was really like my daughter was saying, you get all these awesome pictures from your families and you have so much to say. Why don't you really should be, everybody's on Instagram. You should really be on Instagram. And I'm like, ugh, one more thing. What's that? But she gave me the 101 and I was off. Yeah. And the following grew very rapidly, and now it's on Instagram alone. I think it's like 94.8 thousand followers from around the world asking me, all like-minded, like professionals and families interested in the same thing. They want to take back their health, take back their birth, and it's like sort of created this community. But then I get these messages. My doctor only spends 5 minutes with me and I have high blood pressure. What can I do? I'm like, I can't answer that on social media, right? Or my baby's breech and I don't want to have a C-section like last time, or I had a C-section, I had a traumatic birth the last time. How can I heal that and have a better birth this time? I get this on my Facebook, or Instagram. So that birthed this online consulting. Or coaching, sort of. You have I'm not going to catch your baby on, be your midwife. Right. I don't support unassisted birth without a midwife or a trained attendant there, because I've
Yeah.
You know, that's a whole other conversation. Yeah, but yes, but I'm getting calls from people all over Canada, the United States, and so that, yeah, birthed this online coaching service, and then I was interviewed in a podcast a couple years ago about do you travel? I said I love travel. No, like if I wanted you to be my midwife. I'm like, oh, well, then that wouldn't be a vacation for me, but that's very sweet. You know, but she says, I'm in marketing. I do this podcast on the side because I love midwives and I love your page. But I want to offer you, if you could come out and do a course, I'm going to it. You come out to Point Reyes, California, and make a course on how you prepare people through, you know, the pregnancy, the birth, and the postpartum, and the breastfeeding, and we're going to make a course. And I took her up on it, and so that birthed the online course. It's really how I bring people through the whole experience and prepare them to really love their experience and to have a safe, beautiful birth.
You know,
pregnancy journey.
You do give a confidence, I have to say, from experience. You know, you delivered 4 of our children. And
you delivered them, I caught.
I delivered them. You were sitting there knitting.
No,
I'm just kidding.
The knitting. I don't know how to knit.
I know. But you do give that. And, you know, it was from the beginning of the pregnancy. I remember we would go into your office and we'd be there probably an hour and a half each time. The kids would be playing with games and you would teach them things. But it was the moment that you would hear the heartbeat for the first time, your whole face would light up. And it was such a beautiful moment because I knew
excited.
Everything was fine. And I'm like, all right, Anne says it's fine without saying anything yet. I know it's okay. But that you also took that into our birth, because when we were home, you know, you're a little anxious. Your husband's walking around in a panic. And I hear the words, Anne's here.
Aww.
And I'm like, all right, we're ready. We're ready to go, because you bring that calmness, but that confidence too. You know, it's like, I'm ready. You know, I have my person to help me. My husband was awesome. I have to tell everyone. He was a little nervous, but I know that there is another side
each time?
to it. Each time.
I'm still nervous. I'm nervous thinking
I'm
about
nervous
it.
right now.
I'm starting to sweat right now.
But it is. I feel like the men are almost a little bit left out in the birthing process, because it is all about us.
I try to include you. I try to include them as much as possible, but sometimes when I do, they want to faint.
Yes.
It's hard, yeah.
It's hard because they're not really sure what to do. Should we step in? And then somebody will say, please don't touch me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They get mixed signals. And so for all you men listening out there, just be there. That's all. Just be there.
And forgive her when she says, don't touch me, because she's in labor.
I was super nice to you, that I remember. But it is important to, one more thing, I just wanted to say that all of us out there who are having babies or, you know, thinking about it, find someone you trust. Find someone you trust, whether it's a midwife, a doctor, whatever. They have to be supportive of you in what type of birth you want, because it's so important that they listen to what you're saying. Because there was an incident that we had an ectopic, and I have to say, Anne, you were the only one that knew what was going on over the phone, over the email. All the doctors I went to all misdiagnosed me. And because you know why? Because they didn't listen. They didn't listen to anything I had to say, but you were the only one that kept telling me, go to another doctor. So I have to actually say that you honestly completely saved my life. So it's incredible. And you just kept go to another person.
Goosebumps.
I know, but I found someone that listened, and that's what it came down to. So it's so important that with all types of doctors, we find someone that we trust.
So this is important. Another epiphany for me. It's also about the perception that people have. As Gino says, if you have a hammer, everything you see is a nail. So all these doctors are looking at it from their biases. They weren't actually listening. That's important from a business perspective as well as a health perspective. Because if you're a CEO and you're out there and you're trying to listen and you're not listening and you think you have the solution, you're looking at it from your perspective. You're not taking everyone else's perspective about it. So that was really important. And that was a traumatic time for me also, because I'm like, we have all this technology, we have everything going on, and how can they miss it? And then we're fortunate enough to find somebody who helped us out. But it is amazing, like, listen and, find someone who's going to listen to you and bring the calmness. So I think that's really important.
It's so important.
Yeah, wow. Well, the more I practice, the more humble I become, the more I realize how little we know.
Yes, right. It's so true. Unbelievable.
Wow.
You know,
Yeah.
I am a spiritual person, and I do trust that whatever intelligence created this world and the process of birth knew what it was about, and it works the vast majority of times.
Absolutely.
And we need to encourage that.
Yeah.
So for me, I have one more business question because most people would think that, hey, midwives, you can't really create a business that you've created. When did you have that shift in your mind to say, you know what, I'm just in this little place here. Now I'm writing books. I'm flying across the U.S. to go and do these online courses? Because for me, it was the same thing. I've got this one little restaurant, and then I had an epiphany of I want to serve others, and I want to get to be bigger, and I can do this. When did you have that breakthrough?
It was gradual. But I'm a person that, like, if I see I want to do something and I'm offered the opportunity, go for it. Like, you have to go past your comfort zone.
Yeah.
You have to go past your four corners. And I think that was a big one, you know. And if a lot of times, you know, when I meditate and I pray, and you know that and I know I'm guided, you know, and I just, if something comes my way, it wasn't like I'm going to build an empire. It wasn't like I'm going to build a business. It really wasn't like that. It evolved, right?
Yes.
I was a midwife and had that practice for a
Yep.
long time, and then with with this whole online social media, and then a lot of what I can do, you can actually share that on a global scale, and it sort of, you know, and after, you know, doing this 25 years, I have something to say, so I wrote my book, right? But I wrote 2 books actually. The other one is a whole different topic, but
you say so nonchalant.
very similar actually. But
Well, what is the other book? The other book is
well,
trauma.
Trauma, but if you can help somebody, see, because I know pain, not just from having my 4 babies. I know what that pain feels like, but I know pain. I've had a daughter with 8 years with a terminal illness. You know, thank God she healed from it. But I know what it's like to be in that, in the lowest of the low. You know, and I had my birth trauma, and so I got very into trauma. And because women a lot of times, and then their partners were, you know, you get very intimate in our practice, and they would share with me the different stresses or issues that they were going through. And 1 in 3 women have been abused sexually, and there's any kind of trauma, right? And then, but it was when my daughter was sick, and I wasn't feeling right, and I went to doctors, and I went to the alternative providers, I went to therapists, and everything was making it worse. And nothing was helping when you just talk about it. And I finally went to this integrative psychiatrist. So doctors just wanted to drug me. Oh, you're just anxious, just take this. Or you're going through a lot, take this. And I went to this integrative psychiatrist. And she said, and she spent an hour and a half with me, and she said, you actually have chronic PTSD with post-traumatic stress. I had this is a whole other conversation. From some situations that happened to me when I was a child, and we always are affected by the earliest of our wounds, and on top of wounds, on top of wounds, on top of wounds, and you can't heal that through what I was doing. You can't heal that through talking about it. You can't heal that through taking a drug. You have to heal it through the body. Somatic experience, and she was starting to so I was like so happy that I got this diagnosis that drugging me or wasn't the way to heal it, and that the way to heal it was through the body. So I had gone to a yoga retreat with a friend after that, and there was this person there that was doing this sort of breath work that puts a person into their subconscious state, and trauma just releases from their body. I was like, whoa, that's interesting. So, and people were raving about it. So I tried a session myself, and that was life-changing. Literally, I felt like tons of bricks, like of tons of millions of tons that I was carrying around in my body, trapped trauma energy, because we're good at denying and escaping and burying and repressing, right? It was just in there. It was just, and causing dis-ease. And it just, it didn't feel comfortable during the session. Parts to the time our body sensations come up that are painful. But I was in a subconscious state, so my body just released it. And she midwifed me because I said to her the same thing that a woman says to me in labor. I said, I don't feel good. Something's really, I think I'm going to lose control. Like, I remember when I was in that state, like I thought I was going to die, or what are you doing to me? What's happening? Like, I don't feel right. I started to get scared of my sensations, and she midwifed me and allowed me to just, my body just shook it off and released it. And then I got really into this, and I started doing it a lot. And then I trained in it and was part of this whole, training in it, and 40, 50 people doing the same thing, people healing all kinds of traumas, and then I, to hold someone in a place of deep pain because they had an incestual relationship with their father, for example, and buried that, but it's coming out in other ways now with the relationship with their partner, or in dis-ease or emotional, mental illness, things like that, and to be able to hold a person in that space and allow her body to sort of go through it, release and reset and heal, it's almost like being a midwife for someone in labor. So when you help someone heal their emotional pain, so I had to go through that myself for me to be able to share this modality with others. So that's what that is.
That's incredible. And you've been married for 34 years.
Yes.
She says it like it's a bad thing.
No, it's just an unusual thing these days, right?
I think that's amazing. And I want to know the secret of happiness in a marriage, in a family.
I had to say that on one foot, because what I found is I couldn't change, because nobody's perfect, right? And you realize that I used to focus on all the things, after a while you start focusing on all the things you want to change in the other one, right? In your spouse, and that never worked. And the more personal growth workshops I've taken, and the more yoga I studied, and the more breath work and healing modalities I studied, the more I realized that the only person we can change is ourselves. And that when we change ourselves and we're balanced, we're grounded, we're in our joy. Yes, we can have waves of sadness, and that's normal. It rains and it's sunny. There's thunderstorms. We can get angry about something, but we don't get stuck in it. We just allow the wave and come back to who we are, and know that the light in me sees the light in you. The divine in me sees the divine in you. But I can't change you. I can only change me, and the only thing I can really change is how I react to what I'm faced with.
Exactly.
And if I'm in my joy, then my that's contagious, right? I bring everybody up. When a woman is in her misery, she's going to bring her entire family down.
Yes.
Can you say that again for me?
I tell you that was
100%. Yeah.
And guys and men and women are different,
But it does go both ways, because
it goes both ways. But I'm not a man.
Both ways.
Yes.
There's something about a woman at home. It does affect the whole family differently than when dad's in a bad mood.
I mean,
if dad's in a bad mood, it affects. Yes.
It's different. It's different.
Yeah. But I can only take responsibility for myself, and I've been to a lot of women empowerment groups and courses and all this kind of stuff. But I really think that was the key, and also that just like not be in this paper plate mentality, like if it doesn't work, throw it out kind of thing.
Yes.
So many people are getting divorced, and I just think there's so much value in that I'm giving to my children, and that I give to the people in my any other people, is that it's hard. Sometimes things are really hard, and we are so different. My husband and I are like black and white, very, very different people. But we've created this family and feel very blessed, and to me that it's a huge blessing to give to your children when a unit can stay together despite the difficulties. I'm not talking about abuse and,
Yeah.
you know,
No,
but
I know that. Yeah.
yeah, that's a different situation.
That's
Anything else?
incredible. That was the perfect answer. So I
Oh.
thank you for that. That's what I expected you to say, but you
Oh,
said
yeah?
it so perfectly. I love it. That's what I love it. Gino, do you want to wrap up?
So my wife usually wants me to wrap this up.
I like-
This is a long story though. So
It's a long
if I go
story.
back, Anne's been married 34 years. She went to University of Pennsylvania in Case Western, so her parents really thought highly of education. She got into nursing, and from nursing she had a traumatic experience of her own, which led her to become a midwife, which was really cool for us because she birthed 4 of our kids. So for us, it was an amazing experience. And what I love most about it is that she found her calling through pain. So she saw a massive problem that turned into an opportunity, and that is the definition of what an entrepreneur is, and that's what the definition of creating a business. And for me, the parallels between having an amazing family life and an amazing business life are very similar. Through working through the hard, having the ups and the downs, and not having life as being linear. You're going to have some great times. You're going to make tremendous amount of money in 1 year. The next year you may lose it all.
Save
Yes,
some.
yes. But then you know what? You get to be better, and you have these inflection points in life. And when you're growing a family or growing a business, you get better. And don't expect it to be easy, because nothing is easy. It might be simple.
You don't want it to be easy. You
Yes.
want it to be challenging, because
That's
how
right.
you're going to transform and get stronger.
And birthing is the same way, right? It's not supposed to be easy. It's supposed to be painful, and you're supposed to, I guess, enjoy it. I don't know what that means, but
Well,
I know.
why can't we? Why can't it be an adventure? Why can't we enjoy? I've had people tell me they're in ecstasy with their pain.
Yeah.
So it's all the way you look at it, right? So
Yes,
if you
it's
look
our
at it
attitude.
a certain
Definitely.
different way, and I guess the last thing is, how can the listeners get a hold of you?
Well, my website is homesweethomebirth.com. Homesweethomebirth.com. So that's the website, and I'm really excited. We're building and expanding into its. It's not live yet, but the link to it will be. There's this whole. It's more inclusive. It's a holistic birth and life network.com that we're going to be launching in probably about a month or so. But right now it's homesweethomebirth.com.
Instagram handle.
Oh, at Home Sweet Home Birth. And it's not just about home birth. It's
Yeah.
really, I hear from a lot of people that can't afford a home birth, or there's no home birth midwives in their area, or home birth not legal in their country,
Yeah.
or they medically can't have a home birth. For example, I don't have a home birth experience in the operating room. They now have dental cesarean and like cesarean birth. That's if someone really needs to have a surgical birth,
Right.
but you can have a home. You can bring your home and that philosophy of care into the hospital setting. So it's for all. It's really inclusive of all.
There's interesting. Our last child, real quick, a little story. Our last child was at the hospital, and it was interesting, a very interesting experience for me, going through home birth and then going to the hospital, because it was that feeling of everyone was waiting for something to go wrong, and that was the difference I felt. But I personally knew what I wanted. My doctor was very respectful of what I wanted because he knew me. But for those people going in first time, second time, make sure you have someone you trust, because it's, like I said, being in the hospital, sometimes you don't get that respect. You
want to not only have a doctor you trust, but you want to make sure the setting is a setting that's in alignment with what you really want. Because,
Super
for example, if you want a natural birth and your doctor has a 50% cesarean rate, and the hospital where he or she is attending births has a very high rate of cesarean and medical intervention, it's just an uphill battle. It's an uphill battle. So you can find out these stats.
Absolutely.
Yeah, do your research.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, that's super important to me.
I'm going to leave all the links in the show notes for everybody.
Yeah.
I just want to thank Anne for coming on and having
an honor, a
amazing
pleasure,
impact on our lives. And everybody, if you're really considering, go take a look at the website. I mean, she's got great information.
2 great books. Check out her books for sure.
We want to thank you once again, Anne. Take care, everybody.
Thanks, Anne.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.